Hey, it is Friday the 13th here in the Northern Hemisphere and Saturday the 14th in the Southern Hemisphere, where our guest is. And well, you're like family. It's funny calling you a guest, Michelle. So I want to give an extra special thanks to Michelle for agreeing to be our guest of honor today. Our feature presentation because it's Saturday there, and it's not like a Saturday here right now because it's the middle of her summer. So imagine giving up a Saturday in the middle of your summer, and that's what Michelle's done for you. It's the middle. It's like smack dab in the middle of her day. So that's what she's done for you. So we all I have to say thank you to her for doing that. We really appreciate that, and I recognize that you've done that for us. So I want to start by saying thank you for that. I was thinking about a week or so ago about this month, and our theme for this month is sustaining practice. I feel like right now I feel like I didn't realize how much this was going to happen this month, but I feel like a zebra amongst horses this month or something. But our theme has been sustaining practice, and this is an unusual theme, I think, in January, and it's been feeling a bit like going upstream in some ways. Not in our community. It's felt very comfortable in our community. And very nourishing in our community, but in the larger community in the world where people are setting New Year's resolutions that are, quite frankly, in my opinion, inflicting violence on their bodies in the way that you demand exercise, unreasonable forms of exercise on your body and unreasonable forms of diets on your body and unreasonable forms of abstinence or asking your body to do things that you don't normally ask it to do, or asking your body not to do things that you wouldn't normally ask it not to do. It's just these kind of extremes. Here in our membership community, we really wanted to focus on recognizing that we already have a practice that sustains us. And I was reflecting a little bit on, okay, each month in our monthly motivation meetups, instead of me blah, blah, blahing on, we want to bring forward a member who is representing our theme well, who is living out our theme and can speak to that for our community. And I was thinking, okay, so who is that? And Michelle immediately came to mind. We'd been speaking about it in our leadership meetup, but also in our live meditations. And Michelle has just been so grounded in her practice through this past year, and I could just see how it's very much going to carry her forward in this following year. So it was a no-brainer to ask Michelle to come forward and speak about her experience of sustaining her practice and how she sees that carrying her forward in the new year. So our plan for today is to, I have some questions that I'm going to ask Michelle, but I'm open to this being a circle, a more informal circle as well, like a conversation. So it doesn't have to be me asking the questions. If questions for you come up in response to what Michelle says, then please feel free to ask them of her. And we'll have a conversation over the next hour. The only thing I wanted to do was to welcome in our new members. It's our last meetup. So I want to welcome in Joe Pullen, Michael Loftus, Christine Quito, Ada Beletsky, Laura Ann Moyer, who's I think many of you have probably seen posting in the forum, and Kathleen Deutsch. So welcome to our new members. Okay, so you feel ready, Michelle?
Yeah.
All right. So, Michelle, what do you feel sustained you through 2016 then?
two main things sustained me through 2016, and that was my moon practice, which is basically my yoga practice, and also later in the year, the somatic meditation.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about your moon practice, because you said that's your yoga practice. So say more about that for people that might not make sense.
Basically, when I say moon practice, I also mean connection with nature and cycles, which really is about connecting with my own cycles. So it's a way of paying attention to my own embodied experience and basically living day to day, being mindful of that. So it brings my focus into myself rather than looking externally. A way that I can show the difference between how I was practicing before and now is that when I first started to get serious about yoga, I was very methodical. When I found Melissa, I went back to the beginning and I did every class in sequence, and then every new class that came out, I did that. And then when I joined the membership, it's the same deal. I do every new class that was online, on the membership, wherever I joined as it came out. And maybe about a year, maybe a bit longer, a year ago, it kind of got to a point where I thought, maybe this isn't working for me. I want a little bit more freedom. I want to explore a little bit. And so I just started to become very in tune with how I was feeling and sort of paying attention to what was happening around me and in nature. And for example, like it would be like it's summer now, it's winter for you. So I'd need a different practice to what everybody else was doing on the forum. So that's one way I can sort of illustrate how I've changed in my practice, coming into a more embodied experience that's personal for me.
And how has that related to the moon cycles for you? Because I feel that's really become very much connected to you personally as well.
Mm. The moon cycles, it represents a cycle essentially, and what we see happening with the moon, waxing, waning, it reflects in all arenas of life. And I just find it very, it's very grounding and sustaining, and I don't know, it connects me with, we talk about in our meditation class about personal bodies and interpersonal bodies and cosmic bodies. And that's what that does for me. Mm-hmm. I find it a bit hard to articulate how deep this goes for me.
Mm-hmm. It is often hard to find the words for it. The one thing that stands out for me right now as a human being, and also I think as a personally, also interpersonally, for us to live together and as a cosmic body, that I think that is so important for us to consider and to continue and to flourish, is that we have this narrative around continual improvement and this striving narrative around always expanding and in always increasing our abundance, for example. And this runs really deep through business, not only business, but also our personal lives, this expectation that things will always improve. And one of the things that I appreciate so much that we can learn from the waxing and waning moon practice that is reflected in a lot of our yoga practice as well. Even just our breath, right? The inhale and the exhale. Right? There's that, you start your practice, there's the peak of the practice, and then we come down as well. Is that there is this honoring of the phases of our practice, or the phase that there will be an ebb and flow to our life, to our energy. And we're experiencing this, cosmically, that we can't continue to go on like this, right? Or we're going to use up the world's resources. So we can't continue to go on like this collectively. We can't continually expand individually. And we can't continually expand and use up the world's resources like this. And I think one of the great things about the moon cycle section and connecting with that energy is that honoring of the cycles of waxing and waning. And so I'm maybe wondering if you can speak a little bit about that, and maybe if that's part of what sustained you as well.
Yes, it does sustain me. Observing that the moon waxes and wanes, and then thinking about how does that affect me, and then realizing, yeah, I wax and wane too. I've been thinking a lot about how we are disconnected. A lot of us are disconnected from nature as a society. We've got technology, and it's not nourishing us. We need this connection. We need to come back to the earth, the moon, nature, to feel that groundedness, that nourishment.
So how would that tie into your yoga practice then as well?
Well, I pay attention to my energy.
Yeah.
That's basically how it works for me, is that I realise my energy cycle is personal to me, and I basically just practice in connection with that.
So sometimes you choose more energetic practices, sometimes you...
Yeah, so we're in a waxing phase. We've just come off the full moon, and I felt very heightened. So I think, what do I need in my practice then? Do I need to calm down? Do I need to expel the energy? And then now we're getting into the waning. I notice for myself that my energy is sort of calming down too. I'm coasting along a bit more. That shows up in me very strongly, and I think it shows up with other people too.
Yeah, I've noticed it too across the... I mean, I can even see it in the number of posts in the membership community.
Yes.
Yeah. Right around the full moon, it goes... And then, and then it's just, as you say, the moon's just starting to wane, and it's just, it just kind of dropped off a little bit again. Yeah. That's an interesting thing. So you mentioned also, in addition to you're being really connected to the moon phases and the way that supports your practice, that in the autumn of this year, we introduced the somatic meditation, and that's really sustained you. You want to say a little bit more about that?
So the somatic meditation was a new thing for me. I tried meditation before. It was a little bit hit and miss. And the somatic meditation just really brought me to a place where I was obviously releasing tension, but connecting to an embodied experience and the truth of my body. And it opened up, not just releasing attention, just feeling better. It just opened me up to healing and this deeper connection to myself, other people, all that is. it just seems like such a simple practice to say, come into your body, put your attention into your big toe.
Yeah.
It's just so, it's been incredibly deep. And I think, you know, that might be the case for other people who have done this meditation as well. And the ease in my life now has just increased. Yeah, this is a very hard thing to articulate.
Can you maybe give an example of something that might have caused you stress before that you are finding greater flow or greater ease within your life now that you maybe attribute to your experience with the meditation?
Yes. My partner has health issues. And so we've had some issues with that over the past little while, and there was a time there where we were a little bit not sure what's happening there. Now this would have set me off on a huge huge cycle of stress and worry and projecting into the future, and now I just find, okay, that's there is concern, but I just can't go to that level of tension. It just makes life easier to live. Even with all stress, external stress, worry, whatever, it grounds me and I feel secure and safe, and it's just it's a very powerful practice. And also another example would be over Christmas. Christmas is usually a very stressful time. I don't really like it, but this one was much more enjoyable for me. I just wasn't worried about anything.
Yeah. So I had one of, I think it's sort of difficult to articulate these things sometimes, and I had a meditation class with my teacher this morning, and he spoke about how there's the story or the thought experience, and then there's the embodied experience. I think this brings you more fully into your embodied experience more of the time, right? So that you're less in this kind of projected story experience, which causes a lot of tension, which is, I think, what you're saying.
Yeah. You've got what the ego wants you to go along with in a situation, and then there is what your body is actually telling you what the truth is.
Yeah, what your body's actually experiencing in the moment. Yeah, which is,
and that's trustworthy.
Yeah, and
whereas
not
your ego can be a bit of a trickster.
Yeah. So how do you see these practices carrying you forward into this year, into 2017?
Well, I'm basically just quite happy with how my practice is. I'm not looking to add anything. I'm not looking around. I'm just happy just to stay with what is working well. I don't need to add any more to my plate or look for anything else. It's really sustaining me and feeding me.
So for those, why don't you maybe explain what that might look like on a daily basis, or like a daily practice? I know it kind of shifts and changes day to day, but I think maybe people might be curious about what a practice might look like in a day for you.
Practice in a day for me would be, I would do somatic meditation first thing in the morning now, and then later in the day I sort of think, what what's happening with my energy, what do I need to do. So it could be that I want to do a vinyasa class, or I want to just do something restorative. And also another thing that will come into it is whatever I'm working on creatively. That's something I've noticed ties in with moon phases and my own cycles. So I've really noticed how, you know, I might have better creative ideas at one point in the month, and so I'll take those and get them down, and then later in the month or another time of the month I'll look back at them and I think, well, this is the time to edit. So it's helping me in that way too.
Yeah, so there's not a push to always be in a creative space then.
No.
Do it at certain times of the month.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely a peak time where I'm in a creative mode, ideas are coming, or I want to do stuff or whatever, and then there's that just drops away, and then another stage will come where it's refining or just leaving stuff alone. Definitely not in a constant output mode.
Yeah, and so that's part of your moon practice then. Yeah. Okay. And how do you feel this contributes to I think a big thing that I see is that people put they decide they're gonna have a daily practice or whatever, and then they kind of go on all cylinders and they burn out. So how do you feel that the way that you practice sustains you? Because this is something that you've been doing for a long time. It sustained you over a long time, and it's the reason why I asked you to speak about it as well is because I don't foresee you stalling out either.
Yeah, well, it comes down basically to paying attention to my energy. It's as simple as that. I'm not always go. There are times where I have to back off. I just don't have the drive or energy to do anything. So that's the time to rest. It really just comes down to paying attention, not feeling. And when you do that, you find that any external pressure to just continue to produce, to do more, be more, put things on your should list, it just drops away.
So in that way, the moon practice and then the somatic meditation really go hand in hand, right? Like listening to your body and listening to the phases of the moon. And where do you find that you get support for your practice?
The community. Basically the community.
Yeah. And how does that support you?
Being able to come to a place where you can connect with other people who they're doing their own thing in their own practice, but they're very much on the same wavelength. It's incredible. And to be able to go deep if you want to and connect, it's an amazing thing. I love getting on the forum every day and seeing what people are writing about and where they are in their own practice, and seeing other people grow and go to such depth, and that's inspiring to me.
It's inspiring and nourishing, isn't it?
Yes.
And one of the things that you do so well too is support others. And how do you support others?
Well, I guess the more obvious way I support others is on Moonstruck. and on the forum in general, I like to, with Moonstruck, what I like to do, I'll give you like a guideline or outline for the phase. But what I encourage you to do really is to find your own way with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, you know, I want you to go and explore. So I hope I do that. And I also hope, because many of you may know that I'm quite active on the forum and I'm quite open, I hope me sharing my experiences in my own practice, I hope that encourages you not just to post about yours, but to think about your, you know, exploring your own practice, and if something's coming up for you, that it's completely fine and you're not alone. I think if, you know, a lot of times we often think, am I the only person going through this experience? Is it just me?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. So I think that's one very obvious way where I try and support other people.
I think it's a great way to support other people. And I think it's how you've drawn so many people into that section as well, into that part of our community, for sure. And on a sort of deeper level, how would you say that your own practice has helped you to support others as well? Like, I'm thinking like glass overflowing kind of stuff here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think coming into my own person is what it is, the essence of it, being authentic, and that helps me to meet my own needs. And when you meet your own needs, you can then go out and support other people. You're not depleted. You know, often I think, and I've done this in the past, where it's very must look after someone else, everyone else comes first. And I think my practice has allowed me to really embrace putting myself first without guilt.
Yeah. Okay. I would love to open this up to all of you, because I know that many of you actually practice regularly with Michelle on the forum, but also many of you here practice with her on the Monday live meditation group too. I see many people from that. I know you're probably chomping at the bit with your questions. So I'll open it up for you to ask her any questions.
I'd like to say thank you, Michelle, for sharing all that. And for me in particular, I actually love the way that you respond to what everyone writes, regardless whether it's on the Moonstruck or wherever else it is. And your responses are always authentic and genuine and from the heart, which is really lovely. You've taken the time to read and think about what others have written. So I find that lovely. With regard to moon practice, I just have a question for you. How does that relate into your menstrual flow? So when you're menstruating, does that change or affect what you do for yoga? And also, does it change whether you're menstruating on a full moon or a new moon as our cycles change?
Alrighty. Yes.
Quite a lot.
My menstrual cycle. Yes. I am thrilled to say that I am now bleeding with a new moon. For a while there, I went back to bleeding with a full moon, and I tell you, there is a massive difference. Full moon, different kettle of fish. It was just I find the full moon usually very intense, very energetically high, and you add in hormones, bleeding, and it's just like, it was just so, I don't know how to explain it. It was like, it was so Carly, it was ridiculous. It was very like, you're not just going to release and let it go. It's just like, so that's a full moon experience for me, and new moon is much more gentle, and I prefer it, to be honest. There's no right or wrong way. Like, I know I kind of got hung up on the thing of my menstrual cycle must align with the new moon. And it just doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
Victoria knows. And so my practice does change. When I'm having my period, I go into, I call it my lady cave. Those first 2 days, it's like, no, not doing anything. You know, don't come near me, don't talk to me. And my practice is much more restorative. Whereas other times in my cycle, I feel much more energetic. So I go for vinyasa type flows. And also my menstrual cycle ties in with my creative cycle too. So when I said about the moon cycle, usually around a full moon, I get very creative. The ideas start to download. And it's usually when I'm ovulating as well. So they're great ideas, don't necessarily make sense. So later in the cycle is when I'm much more clear. My vision is like a hawk, and I'm in editing mode. So it's a very interesting thing to work with for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it did. And that was interesting, the comment about, because I find as well that I'd moved from a new moon to a full moon. And because the moon and the menstrual cycle are sort of conflicting with each other, I sort of struggled a little. And then, like you, I had to just let go and say, well, this is what it is. And realize then, and then with the somatic meditation, listening to the body, all sort of all linked in. But it's nice to know that, as you said, that it's normal. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking on the forum yesterday about textbook stuff. Textbook doesn't necessarily translate into real life. And one person's idea of what must be true doesn't necessarily work for someone else.
Yeah, I think I can get on a bit of a soapbox about this, but I really think we have to drop away from what the textbooks say and come into our own bodies and listen to what our own bodies say. I can't tell you how many times I would be with clients when I was working one-on-one with clients, and they would be so in their own experience and describe something completely opposite of a textbook experience, and it was so true to their experience. Which made me just want to throw out all the textbook explanations, right? Because it's so true to them.
You can't say to them, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It says here in this book. That's why on my section, I try to be very careful not to say, it's a full moon, you should be feeling energetically, you should be feeling sociable, your sleep will be really disturbed, because it's certainly not true for me all the time. It won't be true for Anne-Marie. It won't be true for Victoria. We're all different.
Exactly. Because for instance, I'm not with the moon at all. Which probably has to do with the fact I'm kind of a freak of nature. I don't have any ovaries. So I have no menopause. I have no menstrual cycle. I can also not have children, but that's another question. So I'm not with the flow. I don't experience this. I'm actually menopausal from birth, if you would say. That does not mean that I do not feel things shifting, and also full moon people, you can see it clearly on the road that it's full moon. I have to say that going with the moon has come more into my life firstly through my studies in forestry science, because there are foresters who say you should not slash any wood at certain times of the moon, and also in the season, which is logical. But then later on, as I started to work in Asia, where people are still going with the lunar calendar. So, and you're celebrating you actually celebrating more close to nature, the things that are happening around in the society through the lunar calendar than you do through the Gregorian calendar back in Europe. So I actually adopted a little bit more this celebration of the lunar calendar without going with the phases of the moon, because it doesn't speak to me. I have tried it. Maybe I'm not yet there. I'm not closing the door on it. I'm just saying it doesn't really speak to me yet. I also do not notice any changes in my dogs when there is full moon or not. The energy level in them is more like with the weather. If it's nice outside, we go out. If it's cold, it's like, no. If it's raining, not at all. So, this is one of the reasons I have not yet joined your section. But on the other hand, I was just very pleased to read all your comments all the time, and the time that you're putting in there to actually really go deep in nearly every comment that you're making. So that's just great, and it helps people that also like me are doing it now on a daily practice, to really reflect more on what am I actually doing, and so that's just nice, and I thank you for that. Oh, and there was one very old saying. It has been distorted over the years, which actually it's from a Persian prince. And he said one time that nothing is true and everything is permitted. It has unfortunately been beaten up by the Beat Generation, by William S. Burroughs. But this nothing is true and everything is permitted is actually what I'm trying more and more to look to, because it is nothing true. I cannot even tell if it's true for me. I can only experience it. So I can try, and everything is permitted. Who can tell me that I should not try it? Or at least, okay, there are legal issues, but I mean, this is yet another world.
I have a question for Michelle.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Sure. So this is maybe kind of more of a advice or logistics, but I really appreciate what you said, Michelle, about like used to wanting to do everything like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then later on kind of understanding to like find what you need. And I've been on the membership community for a couple years, and I always know that there's things out there that I could use or that I could need, but I feel like sometimes I'm kind of randomly going at it. And I know since you've been there for so long, I'm wondering if you have any advice about how to kind of find what you need in a certain day or in a certain period of your kind of life or time. Does that make sense? Kind of like, how do you know where to go?
Well, just on a practical level, things like the DYC, where it's all picked out for you, are great. Community playlists, they're great too. You get the membership minutes every week, so Melissa tells you what's new. But I just get up every day. It sounds so simplistic. I get up every day, I look, what's my energy like, what do I feel like today? Because I know the forum, I can go, maybe I need to do some restorative, so I'll go to restorative playlists and have a look. So I'd be interested to know what other people do.
I think the DYC the Daily Yoga Connection is great advice, because it is curated for particularly because, I mean, it's not great for Michelle or Anne-Marie because it's kind of opposing your seasons. Although, right now, I mean, it works out pretty well. We're trying not to do so seasonally. but because it is curated for the time of the year and for the energy and where we're at collectively, you can go in there and you don't necessarily have to do the day that it is, but you can look through the week and choose what works for you. And also you can treat the entire daily yoga connection as playlists in and of themselves. So if that particular week isn't necessarily resonating with you, you can go into any one of them as well. So and the other place to go, I would say, to draw on the collective wisdom of the community is on my mat today, where people talk about their practice. Because one thing that I see going in there every day, and I try to go in and talk about my practice a lot of days, which probably sounds pretty boring because my practice is pretty consistently the same. But people talk about their practice, and then I see what happens there a lot of times is people get inspired by what other people are doing, and then they jump on that bandwagon too. So I see people following, somebody decides to do something, and then a bunch of other people decide to do the same thing too. So that's another nice place to go and get inspired too, is on my mat today thread. But I would like to hear what all of you have to say as well.
This is exactly what happened to me through the daily yoga connection. I was moderating the first week of the year. I got introduced into Lakshmi and this deity, and she just spoke to me like, okay, here I am. I want to get to know you better. And I'm like, okay. So I looked up the Lakshmi series, and although my focus was a little bit more on, getting my upper body strengths up, I wanted actually to look into that. But then the Lakshmi series about, opening up the hips, and I still have this problem with my right hip. I was like, no, it actually sits very well for me. I do have to adapt a few things because of my upper body not yet working as I wanted to work. But this is, I think, well, I'm more an intuitive person anyway. So if it, like Michelle, if I would get up in the morning and I feel like, what am I going to do? Sometimes before I had a focus, I was like, okay, what is it? More energy, less energy, restorative, yin, whatever. And then I would do those classes. So yeah, maybe for those people that are just intuitively getting into it, the forum is also great, because then you can find everything, and through the community playlists and on my mat today, exactly that. This is really where people are trying out the most things.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely the community playlists, because you just go there and you think, well, I've got back pain. There's a list for back pain. It's pretty straightforward. So that's a good place to start too.
Great, thanks. There's just so much great content out there. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed, but it seems like I always end up where I needed to be anyway. So I just thought it was a good question to ask.
What I really liked about what you said, Sandrine, was that you did the Lakshmi class, and then there was something that really resonated with you there. Like there was this kind of like, well, I should be doing this thing because, my shoulders are, and there's always going to be these projects, right, that we have for our bodies or whatever, right? But there was something that was resonating on a deeper level, and I love that you followed that through, because it's going to nourish you on a deeper level, I think, and sustain you in a deeper way, more so than the projects.
This is what I learned also with my new lifestyle motto of I'm busy living slow, because I have a trillion and gazillion projects in, they are all lined up. I can paint walls with them. But no, I go with what resonates the most. So this one is resonating the most, and I can take a lot out of it for me. Although I feel my hips and my joints and whatever, but no, it's good. I know something is working there, so I will continue, and then I will see where it will bring me.
I think it's great advice just to go with what resonates.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you're just not going to be practicing. Or if you do, like I found mid last year that I had like a backlog all of these yoga with Melissas, and I thought, I better catch up. So I started doing them, and I thought, you know, these are good classes, but they're just not resonating. And I'm thinking, why am I doing it? Am I just doing it so I can just tick them off?
Mm-hmm.
What is the point of that? Who does that benefit? So going with what resonates, which is what the whole moon phase thing is about, connection with nature and all that stuff that I'm on about. It's really about just going with what resonates.
You're right.
Mm.
For me, I've really learned to allow my intuition to take the lead in what I'm practicing. It kind of, that takes away the think, it takes the think out of it, for one, because there is so much. And if I went through what should I practice today, I'd be all day trying to find a practice, and I could have done 3 practices in that time. So it's usually what my body needs. What has been sustaining me is really listening to my body and saying, what do you need today? What do you need today? And it always comes to me. And the only time where my practice is kind of mapped out is when I moderate the DYC. And so I go with the flow with what we're practicing on the DYC, but it never fails. There's always something in there that I really, really need and that I really, really love. And then I will come back to classes on the DYC over and over again the next week, the week after that. There's usually 1 or 2 classes in DYC that stick with me, that I just love. So that's usually how I determine what I'll be practicing. And today, I'm just really happy and excited to be here today. Michelle, you know how I feel about you girls. You are my moon sister. You are, oh my goodness, we have laughed and danced and sang, and we've had a ball on Moonstruck, and I'm just so thankful for your guidance and your leadership. The things that stick out to me is that your practice is so simple yet so profound. You don't have to do a lot. There's not a lot of books you have to read before you get into your class or before you get into Moonstruck. Just going out and just simply looking at the moon, and it's like, wow, that's a practice in itself. There are just so many little things. You have this knack, this gift for just pulling out the small things and making them so beautiful and just so you've never looked at it that way before. And I just really, really thank you for that. Your practice is so beautiful to me. It's a pleasure to not only come onto Moonstruck and see you there, which you're there in Moonstruck, but just to see you throughout the membership community. I want to know how you do it. I want to know how you just seem to find the perfect words. Even, whether it's just 2 words, whether it's a you go girl, or whether it's a paragraph, it is always right on time. And I can always feel it coming right from your heart. And that's why I believe people are so drawn to you and everywhere that you are. Michelle's doing somatic meditation. Oh, let me get there. Oh, Michelle, oh, let me get there. Because, you add so much to my practice, speaking on a personal level. So I don't really have a lot of questions for you because you're so open. I'm like, what can I ask Michelle? You're so open and you're so giving of your practice. You're so willing to share. And I love the fact that there is never a right or wrong way to do anything in Moonstruck. When new members come in and they want to know, oh, where should I start? Where should I start? Just being here is great. Just sharing is great. And so that makes me feel welcome. And I'm sure that it makes others feel welcome too. I just think you're a rock star. And I just really appreciate everything that you bring to the membership site.
I think there was a question in there, though.
Yes. How do you do it? I mean, and it seems so easy. It's you. I was like, oh my goodness, I would have never thought to phrase it that way. And you are so humorous. You are such a, oh my goodness, your humor is great. And that's another thing that puts me at ease, because I think I'm funny too. So so funny people, and I'm like, you get me, and I get you. So I just love that about you. But how do you do it? I mean, it just comes from, I don't know, you tell me.
It's just me.
Okay.
I don't know. Mercury in Virgo.
Okay.
Okay. That Mercury in Virgo thing, it's a huge thing for me. Whenever I write something, I think, how can I say that with less words? This goes back to what I was saying about my creative. When I write stuff down from Moonstruck, it's around the full moon, and they're all great ideas, but oh man, they're epic. Like these, you see a post that I do for Moonstruck, it's like 3 paragraphs. They don't start out like that. I spend a lot of time just going, okay, I get really analytical and I think, I want to say that, but I want to say it with less words. And I also don't want to diminish my personality, but I also want to make it about the other people. That's my intention when I write stuff for Moonstruck. It's also my intention when I reply to people or when I just post about my own practice. I am very open on the forum. Sometimes I think I'm probably a bit too open, but that's just me. I think that's a testament to the community that Melissa and Tim have built. Is that it's a safe space. As long as you're abiding by the rules, you can be open and say what you need to say. You can let other people have the dignity of saying what they need to say and having their experience. So that's that.
Well, you go, girl. You just keep doing what you're doing, because I'm loving it. I am.
This is a real gift that can't be understated, actually, to take something that's quite complex and to make it very simple. It's a real gift of a teacher to be able to do that.
I have done, when I get into something, I am in. I'm getting the books. I'm going through the internet. The whole internet I will go through on the subject. I am in. But having been all through that, I think, okay, let's take this down to the essence that real people can understand, that I would have benefited from knowing from the get-go. That's another thing I keep in mind. Is like, what's relatable? What makes sense?
Okay.
What's down to earth? That's a big thing with the Moonstruck section. My thing is bringing moon phases down to earth.
Yeah.
I can get as woo-woo as the best of them, but I'm also very practical. It has to work in real life. And the rules thing, look, rules are great. Otherwise, society would just be. But, I'm a bit rebellious. If somebody tells me I have to do something one way, I'm just like, oh, no. So I like to give people the freedom, guidance with freedom.
Thank you.
I think that should be a slogan, guidance with freedom. I like that. I'm just going to write that in my journal right now.
And I think what I'd like to come back to is the point about menstrual cycles and moon cycles. You do not have to have a cycle. You do not have to have a womb. You don't have to get into this, because what it is, it's like my section is moonstruck, moon phases, moon yoga, what it really is. It's about the whole of nature and cycles, and we can all relate to that. We all are a part of nature. We're not apart from that.
Yeah, because I'd like to add to that. I don't know who knows and who doesn't, but I'm a farmer. And when I moved to the country 10 years ago, I actually got to know the moon first before I got to know my own cycle. And for many years, I was just down the farm. I would notice the way, animals react, the way plants react. And then for many years, 4 or 5 years, it was just a practice of noticing the moon. And then it's probably only the last couple of years that then the moon then has become so strong that then it sparked curiosity to go and look at other things. But I started out just with the moon and the 28-day cycle of, just going with the moon. So the moon sort of, shone a light on me.
And that's how I started. I started off with moon phases with gardening. I started planting with phases of the moon. I saw it on a TV show, a mainstream TV show, and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. And I did a little test run, ran a little experiment, and it worked. And then it got me interested in exploring it more, like through my menstrual cycle. And one of the things that drew me into the forum was this flowing with the phases of the moon back then, and that got me in. So. Yeah, it's not just one thing. It's not just for women who are bleeding. It's such an all-encompassing thing.
Okay. Any other comments or questions before we close out for today? Go ahead, Betsy.
Well, I wanted to say that my first impression was you were so attuned with nature. And I did pick up on the humor, of course, that I saw you quite as, I would have used the image Earth Mother. I think you're using a term of divine femininity, but it's the same basic concept. And so I actually was surprised that you were so methodical in your initial approach to yoga, starting class 1, class 2, class 3. Gemini and Virgo combined does explain a lot, but you have some different skills mixing into the potion. But I do think that on the forum, you're a very welcoming and open person, and that's quite nice to see and be around. One comment about the moon. When I was maybe in my late 40s, my parents were older and began to have the very serious problems that parents have when they're eventually going to die. And I fundamentally reasoned that I'd had the good times and I had a good life, and now it was just going to be the pits on out. I didn't have any concept of a cycle. And I thought it was over. The good times are over. Now we're just going to, do the duty stuff. And that's the way it was. And then I remember after some more time went by and the cycle swung back the other way, I thought, oh, it doesn't go one direction. I was in my 40s before I even had that concept cross my mind. And so this is a very nice practice to put this framework out to play with across many levels.
Yeah, I agree. It's, I've lived that linear life, not just in practice, but in life in general, but coming into contact with moon phases, nature cycles, it really does show you that, yes, it is a cycle. There's ebbs and flows. It's not just like, well, this is happening this time and then it's this and then it's that. And that, I think there's a lot of freedom in that, a lot of hope in that, I think, as well.
I love that you mentioned hope, because for me, you get the cycles give you the opportunity to begin again, to start over again. And so it makes releasing not so much, it makes releasing less difficult, because you get to do it all over again. You get to practice all over. The moon will wane and wax another time. So I just, that's what I've connected with, is that it doesn't stop. You can, so what, it didn't work out last time. You get to start again. You get to go through another cycle. And I think that's wonderful.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens every day too. Like it's not just every moon phase that
Right. The sun, yep.
sun goes comes up and the
sun comes down. Right.
We get to start again each day and
get to start again.
Each breath in and out. I mean, we can take these cycles down to smaller levels too, I think, and look at the peaks and valleys in our day as well, and not expect our energy to always be up here in the day, all throughout the day, right? Allow our energy to wax and wane in the day as well. I was just thinking, last night we heard this strange bumping noise. Like, it was like, we live on the top floor of an apartment building. It sounded like somebody was on the roof. And we finally decided that it was somebody doing like some kind of exercise, at 10 o'clock at night. That's the time of night when you're supposed to be cleaning, not doing, I don't know what kind of cardio you would have been bouncing around doing, right?
You see those 24-hour gyms around the place.
Yeah.
Going at 3 a.m. lift weights. Like, that's not. It's not right.
Yeah.
But I think it speaks to our cultural conditioning of this continuous eye on the prize, go, go, go.
Yeah. The linear that you're speaking of. Yeah. And I mean, for us to be able to say that, we're very lucky if you don't have to do shift work. It's very lucky, right? There are people that have to do shift work and have to work within those restraints. So I understand that, and I honor those people as well. There's several people in our community that are work shift, and they actually work really. I'm really impressed how well they work within those restraints. But if you have the luxury of being able to live within a framework where you can rise with the sun and go to bed with the moon, then following that rhythm of the day to following that rhythm of the month, it's a very beautiful practice that will sustain you. And that's what we've been talking about today.
This is actually also another thing quite nice living in Asia and in a big city like Hanoi. You won't believe it, but these people here, the sun is also setting very early, so 6:30 it's dark outside. But nonetheless, at 10 o'clock, although they are making noise the whole day, at 10 it all winds down and everybody goes to sleep, more or less. Just those that go out, they go out. But then in the morning, I'm an early riser, but most people here are up at 4:30 to start working their day, and that is when usually all the hens outside and all the cocks outside are already screaming like hell at 4 and 4:30. So we actually in it, which is then for me my comparison with Europe. Also this we have to ding 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 these hours, and you have to be at that hour at that time and that day and whatever. And here it's more cyclical, and what I find also funny in that matter on the business world, you call it project cycle management. It's a project is a cycle. Cycle management. I'm working in it, so it's project cycle management. So every day you actually go through these cycles. So I don't get it why they don't get it that you also have to wind down at stages and come back to it again and again. So it's quite funny, but maybe it's just because you have it in front of you all day, you don't actually see it. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it shifts in the next couple of decades. I don't know.
maybe through communities and work from our sides to spread the word out, I do believe that we could make a difference. Yes, it will take a while, but I think we will come back to something more, I wouldn't say normal, but more natural, maybe.
Yeah, I think there are companies and there are people that want to change things. Yeah. Okay, well, again, a big, huge thank you to Michelle for taking the middle of her day on a Saturday in the middle of her summer when she could be at
the beach.
So thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for inspiring us to sustain our practice. And I think you'll have a whole bunch of people hanging out in the moon section now. Yeah. Okay, and you can always ask our questions there. So thank you everybody for being here. And we would love to invite you. We meet every Monday. We have live meetups at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time and 5:30 p.m. Pacific time every Monday. And we just stopped talking. We just poo-pooed the idea of linear growth in your practice. But I do have to say, the people that come to that practice, their practice is progressing very deeply, in a very deeply way. Not that there's not ups and downs in your practice, because you do experience the ups and downs in your practice, but there is a depth to their practice that is incredible, that comes from coming together and having the support of the group, but also, it's kind of a three-tiered thing, right? You have your practice, you have the support of the teacher, and the support of the community. Those three things together are incredibly nourishing. So that's the next thing that you have available to you live on the Mondays, and you can take advantage of that every Monday. Okay. Great. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
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 Namaste.